The desert stretched for miles under two suns that burned the sky into a harsh orange haze. Jack Mercer squinted against the heat as he stumbled over the jagged rocks, the blaster in his hand heavy and sticky with sweat. He had been hired to escort a small convoy of alien diplomats through the Arkan wastes, a stretch of land known for bandit ambushes, but he had never imagined it would be this bad. A sudden roar cut through the air, and Jack dropped behind a rocky outcrop just as a group of tall, armored figures appeared over the ridge. Their armor glinted in the sunlight and long, curved weapons hung at their sides. Bandits, no doubt, but there was something different about these attackers, the way they moved, coordinated, and circled. These were not ordinary raiders, these were mercenaries. Jack's instincts kicked in. He scanned the convoy ahead. Among the alien officials riding in sleek hover chariots, one figure stood out. He was taller than the others, with sharp features and a long, ornate cloak that shimmered in the sunlight. This had to be the prince, and judging by the panic around him, he hadn't expected trouble. Jack cursed under his breath. "Well, guess it's time to earn my pay." The alien's scream echoed across the rocks, but there was no time to celebrate. More were coming. Jack dived behind cover, dodging energy blasts that left scorch marks on the stone. The prince's convoy was trapped in the middle of the valley now, and the mercenaries were closing in fast. Jack realized that if he didn't act, the prince would be captured, or worse. And somehow he knew this prince was more important than just some rich alien noble. There was a light in his eyes that suggested intelligence, strategy, and danger all at once. Jack took a deep breath. Humans had a lot of advantages that aliens often didn't anticipate: creativity, unpredictability, and most importantly, a refusal to panic. He pulled out a small device from his belt, a makeshift EMP grenade he had cobbled together from spare tech. Not exactly standard military issue, but it had saved his life before. He aimed it at the attackers' communication devices and pressed the button. The devices sparked and went silent. The attackers froze, confused, their formation breaking apart. Jack didn't waste a second. He leapt down into the valley, firing as he ran. His blaster bolts found gaps in the attacker's armor, and each shot brought cheers from the humans in the convoy, though no one dared call them cheers aloud. Then he saw the prince struggling on a hover chariot, surrounded by 3 heavily armed mercenaries. Jack's mind raced. There was no time for finesse. He grabbed a nearby metal rod and swung it at the closest attacker, knocking him off balance. Another mercenary lunged, and Jack rolled under him, kicking him into the dust. Finally, he reached the prince. "Hold on," he shouted. The prince looked down at him with wide, startled eyes. Jack grabbed his arm and pulled him off the chariot just as a blast hit the spot where he had been standing. Rocks and sand sprayed around them, but they were alive. Who are you?" the prince asked, his voice sharp but breathless. "Just a human who doesn't like seeing people get shot at," Jack said with a grin. He helped the prince up and pointed toward a narrow canyon that led out of the valley. "This way, fast." Jack kept glancing at the prince, noting how quickly he adapted. He wasn't helpless, he had fought before. But he had been trained to follow orders, not improvise, and Jack knew that improvisation was exactly what was needed here. They made it to the canyon entrance just as reinforcements arrived from the convoy. The mercenaries hesitated, unsure if they should press the attack. That was Jack's opening. He raised his blaster and fired at the nearest one, then the next, keeping them off balance long enough for the convoy to escape. When the dust settled, the mercenaries had retreated, nursing bruises and shattered pride. Jack looked at the prince, who was now catching his breath. "You saved me," the prince said finally. Jack shrugged, wiping sweat from his brow. "Guess I did, but you owe me a drink, or at least a story about how you got yourself in this mess. But sometimes that works in our favor." He had heard alien customs could be strange, but this sounded serious. "A gift? What kind of gift?" "It is not romantic. It is not improper. In our society, this is the highest form of respect. You saved me. You have my trust. She is yours to accompany you, to learn from you, and perhaps to teach you things about our world." "Oh, well, thanks," he said finally. Carl inclined his head. "You will find her different, but that is not a flaw, that is strength, you will see." Guards saluted as they passed, and the corridors were lined with strange banners and symbols that seemed to shift when viewed from different angles. Jack felt like a small ant in a world that was utterly alien, yet somehow beautiful. Finally, they reached a private chamber where a young woman stood. Her hair was a tangle of dark strands, her eyes large and curious, and her posture shy and uncertain. She looked at Jack with a mixture of fear and curiosity. "This is Zyra," Carl said. She is my sister. She will stay with you for as long as you remain in our lands. I'm Jack. Yeah, well, we're weird like that. Though I have never been given to anyone before, I don't know what to do. I would like that. And somehow he had a feeling that this unusual friendship would change both of them, and maybe even the whole alien court, more than either of them could imagine. Outside, the suns dipped lower, casting long shadows across the palace. Jack looked out at the horizon, feeling a strange mix of exhaustion and excitement. He had survived the ambush, gained the trust of an alien prince, and been given, well, something he never expected. But if there was one thing Jack Mercer knew, it was that humans thrived in unexpected situations. And somehow, he had a feeling that this was only the beginning. The adventure, he realized, had just begun. The palace halls were a maze of shimmering walls and floating platforms, illuminated by lights that changed color depending on the angle of the sun. Jack Mercer followed Zyra, who moved with surprising grace despite the awkward way she held herself. Her long dark hair fell in messy waves, and her eyes darted constantly, observing every corner of the alien palace. Jack tried to take in the sights, but it was overwhelming. The walls seemed to hum with energy, the floors glowed faintly, and strange statues of alien creatures lined the hallways. "So all this is normal for you?" he asked, trying not to sound amazed. Zyra glanced at him, a small smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "Normal for us. For visitors, perhaps it is strange." Finally, they arrived at a room filled with odd instruments, maps, and holographic projections. Zyra gestured for him to sit. "This is my study," she explained. "I spend much of my time here, learning, observing, sometimes trying to understand why my brother thinks he knows everything. Spy on people. We care about things other than money and power sometimes. You're not exactly what my human eyes think of as, well, princess material, but I get the feeling you're more than you seem. We judge people by what they can do, not just how they look. And honestly, you seem like someone who could handle herself pretty well if she wanted. Those are the things that matter." Strange plants with luminescent leaves swayed in the wind, and creatures with long, delicate legs and glowing eyes scuttled among the flowers. "This is beautiful," Jack said, looking around. "And I mean it. I've seen a lot of worlds, but this is something else. Being different isn't always bad, you know. Sometimes it's exactly what you need to survive." "Good, I like learning from people who actually know things. Makes me feel like I might survive out here." Certain plants contain nutrients, others were used for medicine, and some were even used as energy sources for palace machines. Jack listened, fascinated, realizing that the ugly sister of the prince was quietly brilliant. "Wait, so these plants can power machines?" he asked, incredulous. "Yes," Zyra replied, her eyes shining. "Our ancestors discovered energy in living things. We use it carefully. Humans do not always think this way. They use machines without respect." The air smelled sweet, and strange birds with metallic feathers chirped above. Zyra sat at the edge of the fountain, and Jack joined her. "I have to admit," Jack said, "I didn't expect much when your brother gave you to me. I thought it was some weird alien joke. Most would mock me. Besides, I think humans and aliens can learn from each other if we talk and listen. He requests your presence in the council chamber? Now." The walls were high, and strange symbols hovered in the air like floating lights. At the center, Prince Carl stood, his sharp eyes on Jack. "Jack Mercer," Carl said, "you have shown courage and skill that surpasses expectations. I have brought you here so the council may witness how humans solve problems. But I'm not sure my methods will impress anyone. I mostly just react to what happens. That's my way of earning trust. Standard defense strategies have failed. How would you human handle this? But humans' simpler ways, yet effective. Jack Mercer has shown that courage and clarity of thought can rival centuries of tradition. Yeah, humans have a way of surprising people, but you impressed me too. You're smart, brave, and, well, you don't let being ignored stop you. That's rare anywhere. I have a feeling this is just the beginning." Together, they would navigate dangers, court intrigue, and challenges that neither could face alone. And somehow, Jack Mercer knew that humanity's real strength was just beginning to shine. The next morning, the palace buzzed with activity. Jack Mercer followed Zyra through corridors filled with servants, diplomats, and advisors, each moving with a precision that seemed almost mechanical. Zyra moved with ease, weaving through the crowds, but Jack stumbled more than once, bumping into a floating light panel that swirled around him. "Careful," Zyra hissed, grabbing his arm. "These corridors are tricky for those untrained in palace navigation." "That is good, makes others less tense." Jack had expected a boring display of swordplay or energy beams, but the droids moved unpredictably, adapting to attacks. "You fight?" Zyra asked, raising an eyebrow. Jack smirked. "A little, enough to not get killed." The droids activated, spinning in coordinated formations. They were fast, precise, and unlike anything Jack had fought before. Most humans would hesitate, but Jack didn't. He observed their patterns, noticed how they reacted to light and sound, and began targeting weak points in their design. Zyra watched in amazement. "You adapt quickly. Most here would be destroyed immediately." "You think differently. You can't overcomplicate things. Observe, react, and adjust. I am not required to attend, but perhaps it is good for you to see our politics firsthand." Aliens from the northern system stood stiffly, their expressions guarded. Prince Khal sat at the head of the chamber, his sharp eyes scanning the room. Zyra took a seat beside him, and Jack stood just behind her, trying to look inconspicuous. One of the northern delegates, a tall figure with crystalline skin, spoke. "Prince Khal, we come to discuss trade agreements, but recent unrest near the outer colonies has caused concern. How does your court plan to ensure security and stability?" He raised his hand. "Excuse me," he said, his voice calm but firm. "If I may, humans deal with threats differently, predict where the trouble will happen, then act fast, use traps, decoys, and unexpected tactics. You'll solve the problem before it escalates." Zyra's eyes widened slightly, but she didn't interrupt. Prince Khal leaned forward. "Explain, Jack Mercer, be precise. It works better than sending armies blindly." "How can this be trusted?" Several council members whispered to each other, glancing at Zyra. He realized that some were unhappy with her presence, or perhaps with the fact that a human had gained influence in their court. After the meeting, Jack and Zyra walked back through the palace gardens. Zyra looked worried. "Some here do not like you, some do not like me. Perhaps they see your presence as threatening. Makes life interesting." Jack and Zyra navigated the intricate web of palace politics, attending ceremonies, observing debates, and learning alien customs. Jack's human perspective often confused the council. He would ask simple questions, point out overlooked details, and suggest unexpected solutions. To his surprise, some council members began to notice results: faster problem-solving, clearer decisions, and fewer mistakes. Zyra watched closely, learning from Jack's approach. She realized that sometimes honesty and straightforward thinking were more powerful than complex protocols and rigid rules. "You teach me," she said quietly one evening. "Not only about humans, but about thinking differently." Some council members whispered, some frowned, but others began to consider Jack's advice. Slowly, the human mercenary who had arrived by chance was influencing decisions in ways no alien had expected. One afternoon, a warning arrived from the outer colonies. Bandits had attacked a supply station, and reports indicated they were planning further raids. Jack immediately took charge, working with Zyra to analyze maps, plan defenses, and coordinate a counterattack. Zyra contributed her knowledge of alien energy systems and terrain, while Jack applied human tactics, setting decoys, predicting enemy moves, and preparing traps. "You think like a warrior," Zyra said, astonished. "Not by rank, but by instinct, it is effective." "Instinct and experience, humans have it naturally. This is what happens when courage meets knowledge," he said. "Humans and aliens can achieve more than we imagined. And I understand why he gave me the best gift he could, someone who thinks, acts, and survives just as well as I do. It's about courage, loyalty, and thinking for yourself. Humans know that, and now you do too. Makes me feel at home, even on a planet this strange." Together, they had challenged tradition, outsmarted enemies, and proved that courage and intelligence mattered more than appearances. And Jack Mercer knew that the adventures ahead would test them even more. But he also knew that humans, and those willing to think like humans, could rise to any challenge. The palace was tense. Word had arrived that a hostile faction from the neighboring system, known for their ruthless tactics and relentless warriors, was mobilizing near Khal's territory. The council buzzed with urgent discussion, advisors shouting over one another, holographic maps projecting troop movements across the central chamber. Jack Mercer watched it all quietly, leaning against a railing. To most aliens, the situation seemed impossible. Traditional strategies were failing and panic whispered through the air, but Jack didn't panic. He had faced worse odds in the human mercenary world. Observation and improvisation were what humans did best. Zyra stood beside him, her eyes bright and focused. This situation is dangerous. Most here cannot see the solutions. But you might. I ask, can you help us? If we control the terrain and anticipate their moves, we can hit them before they hit us. Aliens were not used to this kind of blunt clarity. Jack's suggestions were unlike anything they had heard before. No long speeches, no endless protocol, just observation, logic, and actionable strategy. Call nodded to the council. We will follow his plan. It may seem unorthodox, but humans have shown their value. Jack and Zyra moved between the command center and the palace gardens, using holographic maps, tactical simulations, and real-time updates from scouts. Zyra demonstrated hidden energy channels running beneath the colonies, power sources that could be rerouted to create defensive traps or interference fields. Jack saw an opportunity. Perfect, he said. We can reroute the energy to create zones that the enemy ships can't pass. Then we hit them where they're weakest. It's fast, unexpected, and they won't see it coming. Nothing worth doing is without risk. When the enemy fleet arrived near the outer colonies, they expected the usual defenses, predictable formations, straightforward attacks. Instead, they found themselves navigating a maze of energy fields that disrupted their ships' systems. Decoy fleets lured them into ambush zones where Call's loyal forces, guided by Jack's tactics, struck with precision. Jack moved from command platform to platform, issuing orders, improvising on the fly, and adjusting plans as the battle unfolded. Zyra's calm calculations balanced Jack's impulsive decisions, creating a partnership that neither humans nor aliens had seen before. The enemy, confident at first, began to falter. Their ships were trapped in zones they didn't understand, energy weapons misfired due to interference fields, and ambushes struck where they least expected. Jack grinned, watching their confusion unfold. See, predictable patterns fail when you think differently. Not only strategy, but thinking clearly under pressure. Together, human instinct and alien intelligence formed a combination neither side had anticipated. Finally, the enemy commander realized the battle was lost. His ships, scattered and damaged, retreated into space. Cheers erupted across Call's forces, though Jack ignored them, his attention already analyzing the aftermath. Prince Call approached, his expression a mix of relief and pride. Jack Mercer, you have done what our best strategists could not. You have changed the outcome of this conflict. I underestimated my sister, and perhaps humans as well. Today, we have learned the value of courage, thinking differently, and partnership. You handled yourself remarkably, she said softly. Not only strategy, but calm, focus, clarity. Humans have something special. Perhaps together, humans and aliens can achieve great things. I never thought it possible until now. Strength isn't what people expect. It's what you can do, how you think, and how you survive. Humans understand that, and now you do too. Aliens who had doubted humans now saw them in a new light, and Zyra had discovered her own power, not in appearance or rank, but in knowledge, courage, and the ability to act decisively. Jack looked at her. You know, your brother made a bold choice giving you to me. I didn't understand at first, but now, well, I see it differently. You're smart, resourceful, and brave. I wouldn't want anyone else by my side in this chaos. That's the lesson here. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers and challenges that would require both human ingenuity and alien wisdom. But for now, they had won, and they had learned from each other in ways that would shape the future. And Jack Mercer, human mercenary, felt a quiet satisfaction. Not from glory, not from credit, but from knowing that humanity's courage, honesty, and adaptability had once again made a difference in a galaxy that often underestimated humans. Zyra, the prince's ugly sister, had grown beside him, more confident, more capable, and more respected than ever before. Together they had faced danger, defied expectations, and proven that strength could take many forms. As they gazed at the stars above, Jack realized one thing clearly. Whatever challenges came next, humanity, and those willing to think like humans, would always find a way to shine. And somehow, he had a feeling the next challenge would be even bigger. The palace was quiet in the early morning. the twin suns rising over the horizon and casting long golden shadows across the spires and gardens. Jack Mercer stood at the balcony, looking out at the city below, feeling the strange calm after the chaos of the recent battle. Victory had been hard-won, but the outer colonies were secure, the enemy fleet had been repelled, and for the first time, Jack felt like his human perspective had truly left a mark in an alien world. Zyra joined him silently, stepping onto the balcony. She looked taller somehow, her posture straighter, her eyes bright with confidence. Gone was the awkwardness that had first made her seem timid. In its place was someone who understood her own strength and intelligence. "Good morning," Jack said with a grin. "You look different today." "Humans are good like that. We surprise people, even ourselves sometimes." "Do you ever regret being given to me?" Jack asked, breaking the silence. Zyra tilted her head, considering. "No, at first I did not understand, but now I see that it was a gift, not because of what humans are, but because you see me, you trust me, and that changes everything. You're smarter, braver, and faster thinking than anyone I've met in years. But sometimes we're exactly what's needed. You have shown courage, intelligence, and a perspective that even centuries of training could not provide. And you, Zyra, have grown beyond what anyone, even myself, could have expected. The council, the citizens, even my own advisors must understand the value you bring, not only as a human, but as a strategist, a leader, and a friend. It teaches respect, inspires courage, and solidifies trust. You will be honored in the central hall." She had been given her own recognition as well, for her ingenuity and her role in turning the battle in their favor. Prince Karl stepped forward, his voice ringing through the hall. "Today, we honor two remarkable individuals. One is a human, an outsider who saved my life, guided our forces, and inspired us all with his courage and clarity. The other is my sister, Zyra, who has grown beyond the expectations of our society, using knowledge, intelligence, and bravery to shape the outcome of our struggle. Together, they have shown what is possible when trust, courage, and wisdom unite." He had earned it not through showy speeches or wealth, but through action, thinking, and survival. Zyra squeezed his hand lightly, and he realized that the acknowledgement wasn't just for him. It was for both of them, for the partnership they had forged. After the ceremony, the palace quieted again. Jack and Zyra walked through the gardens, the air filled with the scent of alien flowers, the hum of energy flowing through hidden channels, and the soft sounds of the city below. "You handled everything remarkably," Zyra said. "Not only strategy, but calmness, clarity, courage. Humans truly remarkable. And you've proven that being different, thinking differently, and trusting yourself is powerful. I've never seen someone change a whole court and a battle without ever losing their patience or focus. Strength isn't what others expect. It's what you can do, how you think, and how you act. Humans understand that, and now you do too." He realized that their journey had not only changed the fate of the alien kingdom, but had also changed them both. They had learned to trust, to act decisively, and to see beyond appearances. "You know," Jack said quietly, "when your brother gave you to me, I thought it was strange. I didn't understand. But now, well, I see. You are the best companion I could have hoped for. And not just because you fight and think well, but because you see things differently. You challenge me. The galaxy is full of challenges, and humans, we like a good challenge." Zyra worked alongside him, applying her knowledge and intuition, growing stronger, smarter, and more confident with each passing day. Their partnership became legendary within the palace. Aliens who had once doubted humans now sought their advice. Zyra, once overlooked and underestimated, had become a figure of respect and inspiration. The ugly sister, as some had whispered, was now a symbol of hidden strength, intelligence, and courage. One evening, as Jack prepared to leave for another mission in a distant system, Karl approached him. "Jack Mercer, know this. You have left a mark here not just on my court, but on my sister, on our people, and on the future of this kingdom. Your courage, ingenuity, and humanity are unforgettable. For your friendship, your guidance, and for showing me that being different is strength. I will continue to use what I have learned. I will not be overlooked again. We'll meet again. I have a feeling this is only the beginning." As the palace faded into the distance, he thought about the strange, alien world he had left behind, and the human qualities that had made a difference: courage, honesty, adaptability, and the ability to see value where others saw none. Zyra watched him go, her eyes shining with determination. She had been underestimated, overlooked, and ignored, but now she knew her worth. She had a human friend, a teacher, and a partner in Jack Mercer. And together they had shown that being different, thinking differently, and acting boldly could change the fate of worlds. The twin suns rose higher, illuminating the palace and the city below. Jack Mercer's ship disappeared into the sky, but the lessons he had left behind, the courage, the clarity, the human way of facing challenges, remained. Zyra turned back to the palace, her head held high, ready to take on whatever came next. And in that moment it was clear, humans had made their mark. Not with power alone, not with appearance or tradition, but with courage, ingenuity, and a willingness to act where others hesitated. Humanity, in all its unpredictable brilliance, had once again shown that it could survive and thrive against all odds. The adventure had ended, but the legacy of their partnership, human and alien, courage and intelligence, friendship and trust, would echo through the palace, the colonies, and the stars beyond. And somewhere out in the vast galaxy, Jack Mercer smiled, knowing that humans, and those who thought like humans, would always find a way to shine.